These are the worst vehicles in the Crew 2 in each category. Starting off with the street car category, we have the Porsche 356, and I don't even know what to say about this vehicle. This vehicle starts off at a 10 performance level out of 280, which is actually crazy. And as you guys can just tell by the footage, this thing is absolutely garbage. You don't want to buy this thing unless you like old Porsches and you like to have the worst car in the game. I would not buy this thing if I were you guys, because this thing is super slow. But one unique thing about this vehicle is, as you guys can tell in the bottom left, the revs are on the wrong side, or they're on a different side to how most cars are, which is quite interesting. But yeah, don't buy this car. Even with the wide body, this thing is still trash. Next up in the drift category, we have the Ford Shelby GT500. This car looks okay, but the handling on this thing just isn't the best. And if you guys want a good drift car, I just wouldn't recommend getting this thing. It really isn't that good. And in the Crew 2, this is probably the closest car we have to the Unicorn or something like that. But yeah, I honestly probably would not get this thing if I were you guys. There's not too much to say about it, besides the fact that this thing just isn't that good. And yeah, I would not recommend getting it. Next up in the drag race category, we have the Ford Mustang GT. And I think you guys could probably tell why this thing is not worth buying. I mean, it's literally a rear wheel drive Ford Mustang GT turned into a drag car. This thing just isn't good, man. It's not a good combination. I would not recommend you guys get this thing. It spins out so easily. The wheel spin on that drag car is honestly insane. Yeah, I would not get that. And if you guys want the best drift, and if you guys want the best drag car, I would recommend you guys go ahead and pick up the Corvette Stingray. And also the worst drift, and also the worst drag car could also be the Proto Burning Wheels Hub 1. I would probably say that's probably the worst, but I don't know. It's either that or this, you know. These cars are just trash. Next up in the Rally Raid category, the worst Rally Raid vehicle has to go to the Proto Buggy. I would not recommend you guys get this, although I believe it might actually be the free vehicle that you guys get. And in fact, yeah, I think it actually is the free vehicle you guys get. This thing, obviously when you're starting out, you probably will have to use it, but try and get a different car than this thing, because this thing is not that good. I mean, once you fully upgrade it, it's not too bad, but still, it's just not the best Rally Raid vehicle. I don't know why I've got a McDonald's livery on my thing. I don't know what's going on there, but yeah, this thing is that trash. Bro's rocking a McDonald's livery. That's crazy. Next up in the motocross category, this is a category that only has less than 10 vehicles or so. There's not many motorbikes in this game, or what do you call it, dirt bikes in this game. But this has to go to the 350 XC, or I believe it might be the 450 XC. I'm not too sure. Now, this thing isn't outstandingly bad. You know, it's not like the street car vehicle where it's like, this thing is trash. This thing's honestly alright, because most of the motocross vehicles in the game are quite similar. Yeah, this thing isn't insanely bad, it's just not that good, and I probably wouldn't recommend you guys get this one. Definitely get the Suzuki RM450, I think it's called that, or get the Night Shade or Night Crawler. I can't remember, my brain is cooked, I can't remember what it's called. It's the Night something. But yeah, definitely get that one because it is the best. But don't get this thing. It's just not that good. It's not insanely bad either, but it's just not that good. For the Rallycross category, I'm going to give this to the Dodge Charger RT Hemi. This thing just isn't that good for a Rallycross vehicle. I mean, you guys can probably tell it's a rear-wheel drive muscle car and a rally car. Like, come on now, what's that going to be good for? There also is a race called Circle Pit where you have to use this vehicle, and I actually did have the world record. I'll put a screenshot on the screen. I had the world record for some time, and I thought I was the GOAT until everyone actually started trying on the race, and then I didn't have the world record. But I think I had the world record out of a couple 100,000 people, and you know, I've used this car a decent amount. It's just not that good, and the race is not that good either. So yeah, I wouldn't recommend getting this thing unless you want to do the race, I guess. Now for the Hovercraft category, the worst one is the Proto XT3. I just wouldn't recommend getting this thing. It just isn't even that good. The best one to get is probably the Speedster. The Speedster is really good for hovercraft, but all these other hovercrafts, especially the XT3, just isn't good. There's not really much else to say about this thing. It just really isn't that good. Although the hovercrafts are cool vehicles, this is probably the worst one, I can't lie. Now the worst aerobatics vehicle in the Crew 2 has to be the GBR1. This thing is actually so goofy looking, and I don't even need to say anything about this thing. You guys can literally just tell by the footage why this thing is the worst thing. This plane is trash. And also for the air race category, this is also the worst plane. Do not even get this thing unless you want some freaky goofy looking plane. This thing is trash. For the Demolition Derby category, the worst Demolition Derby car is probably the Fender Rattlesnake. This thing just isn't really that good, and there's not much else to say about this thing. It's just not the best one to go for. It's not insanely bad compared to all the other ones. Obviously, they're all kind of around the same level. They're all basically around the same level. But the best one is probably to get the Bulk, or what do you call it, the Dodge Charger or something like that. I don't know, but this one's not that good. Next up, we have the Jet Sprint, the worst Jet Sprint in the game. There's not many that are actually bad. They're all quite around the same level. The best one is definitely the Proto WR1 though, or the Proto Rocket. But yeah, other than those two, the worst one out of them all probably is the Sportsman Edition, the NZ Sportsman Edition. Yeah, I'm letting down my own country by saying it's the worst, but this thing just isn't even that good. I can't lie, yeah, there's not much else to say about it. Next up, we have the monster trucks. The worst monster truck you guys could ever get is probably the Camaro. This thing just isn't that good. And the best one you could get is the Mustang GT, or maybe even the Combi Bus. The Combi Bus is actually not that bad, but yeah, there are a few that are pretty good. Even the Silverado or the Abarth, but the Camaro, this one, you know, no one uses this, and you can tell which vehicles aren't that good by just looking at the leaderboards. Whatever cars aren't getting used that much, obviously aren't the greatest, and yeah, you can just filter it out by choosing the best cars. Then all the other ones, they're not that good. The Camaro, it just isn't that good, you know, it's not really fast or anything like that. I mean, all the monster trucks are quite similar, but this thing just isn't the one to go for. Next up, for the power boat category, I'm gonna name this boat off the top of my head. I'm not sure exactly what it's called, but for some reason I feel like it's called the M31 wide body. I'm not even sure. You guys might have to correct me on that. I think it is the M31 wide body. This thing isn't insanely bad, but it's just not the one to go for. It also has some really strange handling, like it kind of feels like you're driving a car, if that makes sense, compared to the other boats like the Froscher 1414 Demon. That boat is the best one to go for. But yeah, for some reason, I don't know, man, this boat just feels weird to drive. It's not devastatingly bad, but it's just not that good either. Now, for the touring car category, we have this car from 1955. Do I even need to say anything else? Of course, this thing's not going to be the best car. And this thing is called the Mercedes Uhlenhaut Coupe 300 LT or something like that. 300 SLR. I just butchered that name so hard. I know I did, bro. I don't even know how you're supposed to say that. But that is basically what it is, man. It is this Mercedes old sort of Finn McMissile looking car right here. And yeah, this thing just isn't that good. It's not really too bad, but it is actually quite a nice car. It sounds nice, but it's just not that good. For the Alpha Grand Prix category, we have this one right here. I think this might be a creator's vehicle. I'm not too sure exactly what the name of it is, but it's one of the older sort of Alpha Grand Prix cars, and that's probably why it's not that good. It actually does have quite nice handling from what I was just driving it here, but in terms of comparing it to the other ones, some of the other Alpha Grand Prix cars literally go 500. I don't even think this thing can reach 500, so yeah, it's not that good. And that's basically all the categories done, man. Hopefully you guys enjoyed today's video, and let me know what you think is the worst vehicle in the game out of everything. Let me know, man. And I want to know, what do you guys think is the worst street car as well? Because street cars, there's so many of them. I might have chosen a different one. You might have chosen a different one than me. So let me know what you guys think in the comments, and I'll see you in my next one, man. Let's get it.